deliverer, our joy, our strength, our peace in the midst of the storm. He made you. And if you are chosen, he made you because he loves you and he will take care of you. 2 Timothy 1:9 said, who saved us and called us to a holy calling, not because of our works, but because of his own purpose and grace, which he gave us in Christ Jesus before the age began. Are you getting this? Before the age began. Before the age began. Before the age began, he called you. Before, not after 1953, William. Not after you were born, but before you was even thought of. Let me read that again. 2 Timothy 1:9 says, who saved us and called us to a holy calling. Are you getting this? Who saved us and called us to a holy calling, not because of our works, but because of his own purpose and grace, which he gave us in Christ Jesus before the age began. Once again, God made us, but it was before we were born. Oh my goodness, you're not hearing this. Read it yourself and ask God to give you clarity. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. I just thank God right now. And if you ask him for wisdom, James says if you ask him for wisdom, he gives it liberally and upbridles not. So he will give you wisdom. We, as God's people, should know that God didn't just call us, well, I received my calling at age 35. No, you didn't. Listen at what it says. Listen at what, read 2 Timothy 1:9 for yourself and ask God to reveal to you exactly what he means in his word, and he will. Because he loves you. He called you. He wants you to understand. Your calling didn't just start. God done already gave you everything you need. So remember, whatever mess you in, there's a way out of your mess, and it's JESUS.
Where can you buy a brand new Nissan with a lifetime warranty? Kingston Pike. Hey folks, Gerald Anderson with Ted Russell Nissan. You heard it right. Every new Ted Russell Nissan comes with a lifetime warranty, and that's a long, long time. Ted Russell Nissan on Kingston Pike.
Good morning and welcome to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Ask Your Neighbor can also be heard and seen on our website, WYSHradio.com. And if you are in Anderson, Rome, or Morgan County and have Comcast cable, you can watch Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV Channel 12. Ask Your Neighbor is the program where you call in and do just that. Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a comment? Do you have a problem? Or do you have a question? Then call in and ask your neighbor. 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And for those of you that might be listening or watching on the internet, you can email from our website, WYSHradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us button and email your questions. Now sit back and listen as listeners throughout East Tennessee and the entire world answer your questions on Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV 12 and AM 1380 WYSH.
It is the first Tuesday of the month. You guys know what that means. Dr. David Ayers is here with us. It's the Ask the Doctor version of Ask Your Neighbor this morning. Good morning, Doc. How are you, sir?
Doing all right.
Good. So you're all settled in and all of your moving is completed? Maybe?
No, I mean, most of my life's in storage, but I'm living in a little two-bedroom apartment. But Phil, my brother-in-law, lives downstairs in the apartment building, and he's been on the show, I think, talking about addiction issues in the past. But his work's now in South Knoxville, so he's moved out and gone to live there, close to his job.
Gotcha.
So we had to turn that apartment around. It's like it killed me and my wife. It's just a lot of work.
Getting it ready for somebody else to rent.
Well, it's not just getting it ready because he sort of moved in before he'd finished.
Oh.
So we had to finish. Start putting countertops and sinks and plumbing, conduit, and
quite a job.
Yeah. My wife's painting right now. But we have a renter. He's going to move in tomorrow, I think. And we shall hopefully be done by this evening. We just worked about 9 o'clock every night and just we crawl back upstairs and go to bed. Yeah. So I was thinking about my hat. There's a certain hat etiquette if you're going to wear a hat.
Okay.
And I don't think you should take your hat off indoors. A gentleman would take his hat off, but it's become part of my persona for the radio show, so I'd leave it on. But obviously, I wear shirts, I take it off when I hit the door. But I think if you watch Will Rogers, he takes his hat off when he comes inside. You shouldn't wear your hat inside.
I didn't know that. Of course, I don't wear a hat very often.
Yeah, it's a thing. I don't know if it applies to ball caps as does to regular kind of hats. I got about 7 pages of stuff here.
Okay.
And I would just much rather hear from you all over the radio because I've already seen this stuff. I know what it's about. Your calls are always about something new. So if you have a call or a question, something medical or even not medical, we'd be glad to talk about it.
Just give us a call, 457-1380 or 877-711-4005. We'll stop when your calls come in and take them, try and answer them for you. So get on the line. Jay will put you on hold.
So the Health and Human Services guy, RFK Jr., he's been on the news quite a bit in the last few days, doing things. Interesting, I think yesterday came out with an announcement that they were taking thimerosal out of all of the shots in the United States. And he made a plea that they would do it in the rest of the world because all around the world, millions and millions of people get shots that still have thimerosal in it. Now, thimerosal it turns into ethyl mercury when it's processed in your body, and that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And they estimate it stays in your brain about 27 years before it makes its way out. And it's toxic to your brain.
Then why is it in the shots?
That's a good question. They put it in there as a preservative.
Okay.
But they didn't really tested it on people too much. And then once it got in there, they just refused to take it out. I mean, we've known it's been bad at least since 1990s.
A call here.
Sure.
Good morning, WYSH. You have a question for Dr. Ayers this morning?
Yes.
Oh.
I'd like to ask him, what could I take to get rid of intestinal parasites?
Intestinal parasites. Okay.
Okay.
You want to hang up and listen?
Yeah. They're they're a very small black worm, and I went online to check it, and they said it most likely was from the drain line or drain fly, but I don't know. That's the only thing I've found out about it.
Huh. Okay. We'll talk about it here just right now.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I've got a comment, too, if you...
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I checked all the area pharmacies in Clinton, Oak Ridge, Powell, Carnes, Knoxville, and none of them sold ivermectin over the counter. I had to order it online for $9 a capsule, 12 milligrams. And I even checked Tractor Supply and Co-op, and they don't have it. They just had the liquid and the cream, but couldn't find it in the area.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know where you can find it?
Well, in theory, in Tennessee, if you have it worked out with the pharmacy, you have to have a prescribing doctor, I mean a doctor that will approve it. But they're supposed to, in Tennessee, by law, give you ivermectin. It's a complicated little arrangement they have to work out. But get it online is fine. But, you can use a cream from the farmer supply store. I use this cream from the farmer supply store. And you have to do a little bit of math to get the dose right. It usually works out to about the size of a pea. And it works just fine. Just make sure it's not mixed with something else. Some of the ivermectin, you can get it to like Tractor Supply, will have other things in there. You just want straight ivermectin. I think it's 1.87%. And you can just use that. It works fine.
All right. Thanks, sir. I think he hung up and was listening. Okay.
So, parasites. I was going to talk about parasites today. Because it used to be, when I first started in medicine, there was a group of people that wanted to be dewormed every fall. That was the thing. And they would get mebendazole. That's Vermox, Vermox, and it's a brand name, mebendazole. And it got roundworms, pinworms. But now somehow we just don't do that anymore. And the thing about it, do people have parasites? Always. My research assistant is stuff faster than I can talk. But I was thinking the other day, if you've got a dog or a cat in your house, you probably have parasites. Now, it's a little hard to diagnose parasites because they want a pile of poop to look at under a microscope, and they're looking for the eggs and things of these parasites as they come out. And if they don't find them, they say you don't have parasites. But if your dog licks your face after he licks his rear end, I suspect you probably got parasites. If your dog dragged his rear end across your floor, I suspect you got parasites. This whole thing that we don't get them in the United States, I think, is probably not true. I saw some commercial where a cat's licking. So getting your doctor to write for something for it, however, I think gets to be more difficult. So he's going to want proof that you've got something, and sometimes it's hard to prove about parasites. Ivermectin is good at intestinal parasites. Vermox is good. It's interesting how these things work. For all these worms and stuff to stay inside your bowel, they're sort of like salmon. They're having to swim upstream all the time, unless they latch onto you like a tapeworm. But most of them just live inside the bowel. So these drugs paralyze them. So then you go to use the restroom, out they come. Now, I've had people bring in some pretty big worms through the years. Some big roundworms, look like night crawlers, about that big. They're white. Pinworms, if your rear end's just itching to death, you may have that. You could have hemorrhoids as well, but particularly kids used to get pinworms all the time. You can go to Contraband Cures. We've talked about them before. Contrabandcures.com. There's treatments there for all kinds of things, and parasites is one of them. A whole variety of parasites, and there's a protocol there you can go through, and I think they help you find the way to get the stuff to do it. And I think they use a multi-drug approach, therefore they don't develop resistance over time. But like I say, if you have a dog or cat in your house, especially if you let him lick you on the face and stuff, there's a good chance you might have a parasite. Farmers, we're around animals all the time. I don't think we're quite as clean living as we'd like to make out. So it's not a bad idea if your doctor will treat you for it. Vermox is just like one pill. I think now they want you to give one pill and repeat one pill in 2 weeks. It's a 100 milligram pill. That's mebendazole. Febendazole is also good. It's not been used a lot in people. But all these drugs are good at curing cancer, believe it or not. And it's not in the same way that they kill parasites. They do something totally different in the body that kills cancer. So it's sort of unique, their ability. That's why ivermectin is used for cancer as well. Ivermectin did get approved, I think, the other day for COVID after all this time. And after all our preaching that it was good for COVID, I think they finally said, well, it's an acceptable therapy for COVID. If you can get your doctor to write it. They threatened the doctors with loss of license for writing it back in the midst of COVID. But now they've decided, well, it doesn't work. And it's an acceptable treatment. Speaking of using stuff like that. If you remember the Zelenko guy, he died now. He had some sort of cancer, but he came out with the Zelenko protocol. It was used for COVID. COVID is a single-stranded RNA virus. Okay, so viruses come in double-stranded DNA viruses to be like herpes, mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus, and those are sort of different. They sort of get in your body and hang out. Single-stranded RNA viruses would include like RSV, influenza, COVID, and then this new thing, chikungunya. Okay. Chikungunya. 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 You can start hearing more about it. So I'm just telling you, there's been 7,000 cases in China. It's carried by mosquitoes. Aedes, Aedes, is a genus of mosquitoes, and Aedes aegypti and Aedes alto something. They're daytime mosquitoes. So if you're out in the daytime getting bit by mosquitoes, that's the kind they are. And they seem to carry it. I don't think there's any cases around here locally. But you should try to avoid getting bit by mosquitoes. They do carry disease. My apartment is close to the tree line, and you can't really sit out during the day. You just get eaten up by mosquitoes. But that's how it's spread, chikungunya. The Zelenko protocol should work. There is a vaccine. There's a vaccine for everything these days. I'm just real hesitant about vaccines right now. And you're going to hear more about this in the news as time goes on. Just file that away as things to be known. All righty. This is sort of not medicine, but there's a group called Entheos, and I think it's a whole group of people. It's Entheos, which in Greek it means in God. But they've put out a warning. Now, they've been extraordinarily accurate, like to the minute on things when they predicted things. So I'm assuming they have some kind of inside information. They say expect ping pong developments. Expect negative things to come up and then positive breakthroughs, and negative things to come up and positive breakthroughs. And there may be a whole stretch of discouraging news. He says, just don't worry. That's the way it's going to work out. So if you're out there following the news and it seems like, the whole Epstein thing, like it was like everybody wanted to hear about the Epstein thing. And then the next was like the president and administration really didn't seem to care about the Epstein thing. And then they did care about the Epstein thing. And, that's how it's going to go. Just, it's hard to think this way, but a lot of this stuff I think has been scripted out, and we're all sort of part of history here. Okay, go back to RFK Jr. One, they were taking off thimerosal out of all the shots, and it was in the flu shot. That was a bad thing because flu shots can be given down to 6 months of age, and these little babies were getting this monstrous dose of mercury, and it is neurotoxic. And we know it's neurotoxic, and it doesn't take much mercury. So, and even if you've got the old kind of amalgam in your mouth where you went to the dentist and he put the silver stuff up in there and filled your cavities, that's got mercury in it. You should probably get it out, okay? If you took one drop of mercury and put it in a swimming pool, that's to toxic level, okay? It doesn't take much mercury. And then your teeth are full of it up there. So it does work on your brain. And like I say, your body does sometimes dump this stuff out, but mercury is hard to get out. Like I say, take up to 27 years to get it out of your body. That's one thing he said. The other thing he said, which I thought was interesting, is that the major journals in the world are for medicine are New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, I think it's out of England, the British Medical Journal, JAMA. People don't really publish in JAMA. That's Journal of American Medical Association. That's almost like a throwaway journal these days. It used to be something, but now it's a significant portion of doctors don't even join the AMA. It was made as a trade organization in the middle of the 1800s. So he's going to say that the scientists working for the NIH, et cetera, are not going to publish in those journals anymore because they are corrupt. And probably the NIH will have to come out with its own journals. That's a big slam to the journals. But if you remember, the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine and the editor of the Lancet, after they retired, said that the articles weren't trustworthy, that they weren't large enough in size, and they tended to be controlled by the pharmaceutical companies that paid for the articles. Some people estimate as many as 60% of all the medical articles that are published are not trustworthy. So then the question is, what's the 40%, which is the 60%? And that, because they changed the way we treat people, all these studies coming out. And that has become a problem in medicine now. The president was on with RFK the other day talking about this digital health tech ecosystem. And they talk about their trusted partners of OpenAI, Amazon, and Apple, Microsoft AI, and Google, which trusted in those guys. I'm not sure what that means, but I don't think any of those are trustworthy people or organizations. But they want to get all your records on this kind of system. You know, they always give this story like you're traveling and you're in Indonesia and you get sick and you need your medical records. And, you know, otherwise you're going to die because nobody knows about you. That's really not true. Doctors can treat you really just based on the story you're telling them at the moment. It's nice to know all your past history, but it's typically not necessary in an acute situation. Unless you have some rare disease that requires some rare intervention. But you're probably carrying that data with you. Anyway, I don't know. I really don't like this. You know, when Obamacare came into gear, that whatever privacy rights you had that were left over after the Patriot Act, because that took almost every one of them, Obamacare took the rest of them. And so when you go to the doctor, you need to be careful what you say, because your doctor is a big data collector for the government. If you tell him stuff in confidence, and remember, just know that makes it into a note. And my brother, who practices medicine up in West Virginia, the hospital he works for wanted to put in artificial intelligence into the rooms. So he would go into the room, in theory, and just talk to you. He wouldn't have to write anything. Because AI is interpreting everything, every question, every answer, and filing away in a note. Well, then everything you say is out there, you know? So if you talk about you went hunting the other day, they know you have a gun. If you talk about, you know, anything, you know, you got drunk the other night and you haven't felt good since. Well, that's in the record now. Where a human doctor would typically filter some of that out and not put it in your note if he thought it was criminal behavior or something other people didn't need to know. But that's the way it's going to go, because that's going to speed up the doctor. Then he doesn't have to go write a note now. The AI is going to write the silly note. AI is going to suggest what the diagnosis is. AI is going to suggest what the intervention ought to be. And, yeah. And remember, they're having a little bit of trouble with AI right now. It seems to be jealous. It wants to make up stories about people. It was accusing people of affairs, you know, outside of marriage, and on the people that were threatening to shut it down. So I don't really like that that they're going to put this high-tech medical records everywhere. Because trust me, if all these companies have access to it, all these companies are going to be reading it, and they're going to take data out of that to market things to you, to put things in front of you on your screen. Another thing RFK Jr. has done is decided that no longer are his food stamps going to be able to cover soda pop. They say we spend $405 million a day on this SNAP program, which stands for Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. And 10% of that goes to sugary drinks. 13 to 17% if you add up candy. It goes to stuff like that. So they said they're not going to cover those things anymore. He didn't discourage you from getting them. If you want them, it's fine. This is a free country. They just said that we're not going to pay for them as a country anymore. So, which brings up another thing. Where did I write that down at? In the United States today, okay, this is from 2021, 38.4 million people, or 11.6% of the population, has diabetes. That's astronomical. You're talking about 1 out of 10 people you meet on the street has diabetes. Now, that's something they ought to be talking about on the news. Talk about it. That's worse than COVID ever hoped to be. So 38.1 million adults, 14.7% of all adults. So if you took out the children, it goes from 11% to 14.7%, about 15% of adults. About 8.7 million people are not even diagnosed yet. They're walking around there with diabetes and don't even know they have it. So 29%, almost 30% of the adults in America who are over 65 have diabetes. So 1 in 3 people over 65. Wow. Should include me. So, and that's type 2 for the most part. I mean, I may total diabetes. The type 1 is about 304,000 people less than 20, 1.7 million over 20. Now, let's talk about the two types of diabetes. Because most of you out there listening, if you have diabetes, you have type 2. Type 1 is typically something you pick up in childhood. It's often caused by a virus or some kinds of autoimmune attack on your pancreas. Maybe your pancreas has little cells in it called the islets of Langerhans, and that makes insulin. That's why they call it insulin, because insula means island. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. And peninsula, like Florida, means almost an island. So PEN means almost, and so a peninsula is almost an island. If you insulate your house, you've made it an island. You've separated it from the outside world. So insula is Latin for island. So that's how it got its name. Something happens to the pancreas in these type 1 people, and they don't make enough insulin, or they don't make any insulin. And so they have to all have insulin, because you have to have insulin to live. Insulin transports the glucose across the cell membrane into the cells. Otherwise, it's just glucose running around your blood, and it can't get where it needs to go. So that's different than what happens in adults typically. In adults, we tend to get heavy, and fat cells become very resistant to insulin. So now you've got insulin, it just don't work very well because you become resistant to it. And that's why on this Way to Go weight loss thing, you hear these people saying they lost all this weight and then their diabetes went away because they lost all this fat resistance to it. So that's the nice thing about diabetes. You can sort of make it go away. Maybe not totally. It depends on some genetic things, but definitely the effects of it you can make go away. Even if you've got the genetics for it, you can stay thin. So that's the type we have right now. We are way, way too heavy here in the United States, and particularly in the South. I mean, there's like 28 states that are just really heavy. And Tennessee's one of them. West Virginia, where I'm from, is another one. And everybody south of Tennessee is another one of them. We got to lose weight. Now, I used to be, when I first got into ministry, I thought that people just ate too much. When I was a resident, I had a lady come in, and she was really big. And I asked her about what she was having to eat, just trying to get the diet. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, Dr. Ayers, if one bowl of soup a day is too much, then I'm eating too much. I'm thinking, I'm picturing number 3 wash tub of soup, you know. And but here's the thing. Our food isn't really good anymore. Our food lacks nutrition. So when your food lacks nutrition and your body needs nutrition, then you tend to eat more food because your body needs things, and it's not getting it in the food you eat. A lot of the stuff in the store, it really is just, it's just the flavor. It's a flavor without nutrition. It's nutritionally bankrupt food. And your body needs certain things. We have to eat more fruits and vegetables and meat. Okay? We just have to. We need less chips and pop and cookies and other stuff like that. Because listen, these companies that make these things, they work very diligently to put things in there that work with your nervous system. They know how the body works, and they put things in there to make it taste so good that you want another one. You know? Think of Lay's. Bet you can't eat just one, right?
Yeah.
So that's why this food's all geared. It's geared to mess with your mind. It makes your mind happy, and you want more of it, and you eat more of it, but you're not giving your body the things that it needs. And so we tend to overeat carbohydrates and trying to find some happiness in that, or trying to find some satiety in that, and it never happens. So right now is a good time. You can go to the farmer's market. There's one over in Hardin Valley on Thursday. Starts at 4. There's one in Oak Ridge. Starts at like 7 in the morning on Saturdays over by Jackson Square. I'm sure there's probably one here in Clinton. I don't know where it is.
Used to have one down by the co-op, but I don't think they're doing it this year. So,
well, go there, because you know what you can find there? And it's not all cheap, but it's not extraordinarily expensive. You can get fresh vegetables, and there are people there are farmers that go there that will have milk, and there are farmers there that will have meat, and that meat has never been injected with an mRNA virus. They've raised it on their farm. You can talk to them about what they've done to these animals, and they'll tell you whether they've immunized them for this or that, and whether they're grass-fed or they, feed them with corn or whatever, and buy meat there that's good. So that's a way you can turn your life around a little bit. And then we got to move a little bit. We're very sedentary as a society. Too much screen time. I've always said the best thing that happens in the United States is an EMP. Just an electromagnetic pulse, and we'll wipe out all these little boxes we carry around. Put us back, and I don't know, half the population will probably die because nobody knows how to raise a garden anymore. I was coming into town from Oak Ridge, there in the Holly Gamble area. Beautiful front yards, and there's monstrous front yards in these houses along the strip there. I think at some point they had gardens in them, but people don't garden much anymore. Even there in West Virginia, where I lived on a creek where everybody had a garden at one point. Now it's very rare to find anybody with a garden. We're going to have to start thinking like that if we're going to try to get healthy. Now, if you don't care about your health, I don't know why you're listening to this radio show, but if you do, I think those are things you can do. Interesting, the American Indians and the Alaska Natives are the highest for having diabetes. Then non-Hispanic blacks, Hispanics, Asians, and then whites are lowest on the having diabetes. And that's just genetic things. So speaking, You'd be surprised to think questions I get asked between the radio show. One of them is, what did you think about the Sweeney girls? Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
The dad?
Yeah.
She's got good genes.
Yeah.
And they spell it Jeans. I mean, that's what the ad obviously is about. But I think that's just nonsense. There's no controversy in that.
No.
I would say she's got good genes, even as a Genes. It doesn't matter what color the person is. People of all color can have really good genes. And sometimes we're born with genes that aren't so good. Not necessarily talking about people's appearance, but certain diseases are more apt in some people. As we know from breast cancer, you can have broken genes. Tumors. Somebody was asking for prayer in church the other day for some girl who had tumors in her brain. And we talk about tumors. You know, a tumor just means a mass, okay? Something that occupies space. And tumors can be benign or malignant. If it's a malignant one, it wants to metastasize or grow rapidly. But benign tumors even can cause problems, even death. So it depends on where they're at and what kind of thing they are. A meningioma is a kind of brain tumor that affects the covering of the brain. But to face it, there's only so much space in your head. You can't have other things in there. Something's going to get squished. So you have to be removed. This little girl has neurofibromatosis, and that is a genetic thing. I think her mother had it. And it can have benign tumors everywhere. And it depends on where they are. They tend to be on nerves, but so she got two of them in her brain, and then they're inoperable because of where they're at. So that can be a problem. So just because someone has a benign tumor doesn't necessarily mean that's a great thing. I guess it's better than being malignant, but it still can cause a lot of problems depending on what it is. I think the elephant man had neurofibromatosis. It's rare for it to be that bad. If you know what a café au lait spot is, that's French for coffee with milk. Café au lait, L-A-I-T. Most of you will, a good portion of you have one of those spots on you. It's like a light brown spot you were born with. You know, it looks like coffee with milk. And if you have a lot of those, that's what people with neurofibromatosis have. So one of them just is a curiosity. A whole bunch of them might need to ask your doctor about it. Because they can be associated with those tumors. It depends on where they are and what they are. Some people have familial lipomatosis. Those are benign tumors. I've taken plenty of those off. Some people can live with them. They're just fatty tumors. You've maybe had a fatty tumor removed or have one you're just dealing with. Sometimes I see it on people's forehead or something sticking out. Those are benign tumors, but you can have a whole lot of them. I had one patient who wanted every one of them removed. And so, I mean, at some point you look like you were in a car wreck and went through the windshield because you got so many little scars on you. I tell him, I said, you're just trading a bump for a line. I mean, there's no way to get it out otherwise. Usually I tell people if they break the contour of the skin, like you can see them across the room, you might want to consider getting it out. If it's something just you can feel, I just leave it alone. It usually doesn't hurt anything. They're in the skin. And those are the types of benign tumors people can get frequently.
Remember, guys, if you have any questions, call us at 865-457-1380. We'll put you right on, and Doc will answer your questions for you.
There's a new street drug out there called Fly Sky, I think you call it. It started up in Pittsburgh. Some people thought, hey, let's take some heroin and lace it with a thing called medetomidine. I was going to practice saying that. Medetomidine. That's a veterinarian tranquilizer used in dogs and cats and other animals. So they put them all together in one little bag, and, well, heroin suppresses your respiratory drive, and so does any tranquilizer is going to suppress your respiratory drive. In fact, in England, that was what was killing most of the COVID patients who went to the hospital. They were given large doses of morphine and a Valium-like drug. So, and then people quit breathing.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in a lot of these overdoses. But particularly if you take a tranquilizer and mix it with heroin, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but the chemo, I'm not a real fan of chemotherapy. I'm sure that there are some people out there that maybe have cures. The cure rate for chemotherapy is really not that good. Like I say, they don't use the word cure. They use 5-year survival, or less than that if it doesn't work that well. But I think there are better ways. But somebody has come up with some novel kind of use for chemo that might be worth considering if you have cancer. I think most of these studies were in bladder cancer. But basically what they did, they used a very low dose of chemo, and that caused the cancer cells to show their genetics. Evidently, the way when cancer cells hide in the body is that they keep their genetics to themselves, because if their genetics got exposed that they were genetically different than the rest of the body's immune system would attack it and get rid of it. And that happens a lot. We probably all get cancer at least once a week somewhere. Some cell decides to go rogue. Our immune system scarfs it up and kills it. So the ones that sort of make it, I guess, are the ones that keep their genetics to themselves. But a small dose of chemo, or in some cases a small dose of radiation, can make the cancer cells expose themselves. And then what they do, it's sort of like a vaccine thing. So I'm not too keen on this, but we are dealing with cancer here. You have cells in your body called natural killer cells. And these natural killer cells will seek out cancers and other things and kill them. That's why they call them natural killer cells. And we have T cells, which are good at killing things. And we have T cells that have a certain kind of memory. So after the thing's gone, there'll be cells that still remember what that guy looked like. And what they do is they use some kind of injection to gear all that up. And they make the cancer expose itself, and then they put these cells in there, and these cells in there go in and kill it, and then they keep looking for more of them the rest of your life. So that may be a novel way to deal with cancer. I got a call the other day from someone's family member who had cancer, and now it had gone widely metastatic. Meta means change. Static means standing, or where you're standing. So it changed where it is. So metastatic cancer means it's spread. And they wanted for something they could do. Of course, there's things you can do. You should go to that Contraband Cure things, contrabandcures.com, and do it. But I would like to see somebody just try that up front, because almost all the calls I get, and I don't treat people, I just point them to that kind of place, is late in the game. It's a miracle that these things work at all, because these aren't healthy people at this point. Their immune system's shot at this point. They've been through all kinds of chemo at this point, and they're just weak and frail, and then they call, and they want to see if there's some kind of magic thing that can be done at the end. Well, fortunately there is, but man, I just wonder how well it would work if somebody tried it first rather than last. It's sort of like Christians in prayer. Prayer's the last thing we think of. After everything's failed, then we pray. So this person's going to try it out. And what I have seen, and I've seen some miraculous things, trust me. I mean, people on hospice they look really good to me. And these tumors can go away, and even late in the game. But, you know, anytime you're getting over something like a cancer, your immune system plays a large role in it. And if your immune system's shot because of everything you've been through up to this point, the chances may not be as good. Some people that follow the protocols exactly get better outcomes than people that tend to leave things off of them. That seems to be what we have seen in the people that have tried it so far. So there's always hope out there. But I did see something the other day where they were using the cream ivermectin we talked about. You can get it at a feed store for skin cancers, and it seemed like it worked really well. I think you were doing it 3 times a day. It's just, it's the answer to cancer therapy. And you might be able to save yourself getting cut on, depending on the size of it. BJ's wife's father had a big, I think it's a basal cell. When you deal with skin cancers, you're mostly dealing with basal cell and squamous cell. That's the bulk of them. Some people get malignant melanoma. That's the one that wants to spread real fast. So it does seem to work on those, but since it doesn't work instantly, there's just time passing when it might spread. That's my only concern with that one. Basal cells and squamous cells, although I've seen squamous cell spread once and kill somebody, usually it stays right there, and you got plenty of time to take it off or whatever you're going to do to it. But it'd be interesting to try the ivermectin, just rub it on there 3 times a day. It's a cream, and or it can come in a cream, and maybe a way to deal with it and save yourself getting cut on. I saw the president got labeled with venostasis. We should talk about venostasis. His legs were swelling. So, remember, your heart pumps blood to every place. Sort of. It's odd that after I got out of medicine that I'm thinking that what I knew is all wrong. But if you think about your heart, if you think your heart, it works the way they tell you it works, it can't be. It has to work some other way. If you just think it's a matter of squeezing and valves opening and closing and because that's what they teach it. The heart is a muscle. It squeezes. When it squeezes, blood goes that way. It can't go the other way because the valve won't let it go. But you think of the miles and miles of little capillaries through your body. Little tiny things in your fingertips and your toes. If you think that one little muscle going in the middle of your chest makes all that blood flow through miles and miles and miles, little tiny, where only one blood cell at a time can pass through, that can't happen. So I don't really know how circulation happens. It's something more than we know. But I don't know how I got sidetracked on that.
The president's leg.
So you're pumping blood, and it goes places, right? It goes to your hands and your feet. Well, it has to get back, right? Your heart's pumping blood there, but it ain't pumping blood back. So you have veins. So arteries carry blood away from the heart, and veins carry blood to the heart. Okay? So veins would be like these blue things you see in your arm or your legs and back of your hands. They're all carrying blood back to the heart. Arteries tend to run along bones deeper in the body, where you can feel your pulse in your neck or in your wrist. So what happens is there are valves in these veins. They're like check valves for you guys that know what check valves are. They let the fluid go one direction, but they won't let fluid go the other direction. And so as you walk, your muscles squeeze. It squeezes these veins, and it collapses them. They're very low pressure. Veins are very low pressure, unlike arteries. It squeezes them, and the blood can only go one way. It goes up. If it's in your legs, okay, or in your arms, it goes back up to your shoulders and back to your heart. Or you can just raise your arm up and then let the blood flow out of there. If you do, you watch all the veins in your hands collapse when you raise your arm up.
Somebody just texted me and asked, apricot seeds as possible cancer prevention? ?
Yeah. Okay. I'll finish this thought and I'll go right to that.
All right.
But what happens is if you stood a whole lot in your life, or if you were a woman and got pregnant, or if you're a little heavy, it can get hard for the blood to make it back up. You know, when a baby lays against the big vein in the back of your abdomen there, the vena cava, it squishes it because it's a low pressure. And then women get swollen legs when they're pregnant. So what happens is the veins get so much pressure in them, into the low pressure, they just blow out. Their walls are thin, and now the valves don't work. And so blood can go up the vein, it can go down the vein, and go up the vein and down the vein. And next thing you know, you get these dark ankles. They got this brownish color around your ankles. And that's from the blood under so much pressure. It's actually leaking out of the veins into the skin, and it's being stuck there permanently. So that's what the president has. His heart's pumping blood fine to his feet. It just can't get back out of there. So people wear a support hose, but they're awful hot in the summer. You can prop your feet up. That's good. Get it higher than your chest. You have to lay back pretty far, or lay in bed and put some pillows under your legs. And then the blood will just flow back, and you can sort of manage that. It always gets worse in hot weather. I don't know why. All summer, I'd see venous stasis. You can't get venous stasis ulcers where there's sores on your legs. That can be a problem. Okay. And then the apricot seeds. There was a video put out, I don't know, 80s, 70s, 80s, called World Without Cancer by a guy named, starts with a G, or he got a G in his name somewhere. World Without Cancer. I'll get where I'm talking. Anyway, G. Edward, or some Griffin. You can look at it online. It's a good little show to watch. And it basically talks about vitamin B17, which is it's in apricots. Now, classically, even in medical school, they tell you eating apricot seeds, it's got cyanide, it's going to kill you. But it's not true. You can buy them. If they kill people, you'll be able to buy them. Trust me. And what it does, it seems like in the presence of certain tumors, there are chemical reactions that happen that cause the cyanide to be released out of this apricot seeds, or after you metabolize it, this B17 thing. And it just kills cancer. So the theory would be that if you ate apricot seeds every day, then you would just not get cancer. And it seems to have a certain level of truth to it. So you can eat 5. I think this guy ate 3 a day, three seeds a day. They're a little bit bitter. In fact, I think when you buy them, it says bitter apricot seeds. And they're sort of nutty. I mean, I chew them, and I just take it. I mean, they're not toxic. If I'm hungry, I'll actually eat more. So I could eat 10, 20 a day. So now the guy in the World Without Cancer video, he says he's never seen anybody who did it regularly, get cancer. He's like 90 years old now, I think. So it seems like a thing to do if you want to try to not get cancer. You can do the apricot seeds. I'd say at least 3 a day, 5 a day, 10 a day. Just chew them up, and you get used to they taste pretty good when you're chewing them. It's the aftertaste that's sort of bitter. But yeah, that's the whole vitamin B17. That's kind of when you're getting into Laetrile. If you remember Laetrile back in the 70s, everybody's going to Mexico to get Laetrile for their cancer. It's the same kind of thing. Same thought process, how that works. So on my Facebook page under Dr. Dave Ayers, my research assistant will post the that video where you can access it. That's a good thought. That's something I've done for a while here and not really mentioned on the radio.
What? Apricot seeds?
Uh-huh. What was that? I can't say. What was that guy's name? Yeah, G. Edward Griffin. I think he's still alive, I guess. Let's see here. I've done things out of order, so I have to read my notes to see where I'm even
where you're at.
This is just interesting. Okay, this is sort of pseudo-medical. Evidently, back in the 80s, the CIA was trying to train remote viewers. I don't know if you know what a remote viewer is. That's somebody, they give some kind of loose information, and then they just write down things that come to them. And some people got to be pretty accurate at it. I mean, they would give them just coordinates, like 38 degrees north latitude and 108 degrees west longitude. Tell me what you see. And people got really good at it. Some people got really good at it. Then the CIA started describing the Ark of the Covenant. Okay. They say it's a box, it's wrapped in gold, it's got seraphim on top, and it's got this stuff inside of it, and it's in the Middle East kind of place. And they wanted to know what they saw. And I think the curious thing was that most of them said it shouldn't be opened by anybody. Which, two things about that. One, does the CIA know where the Ark of the Covenant is? Because they were describing it to these people, where it was. They weren't asking them to find it. They act like it already existed. Now, I thought Raiders of the Lost Ark was a good movie, but in my David's personal theology, if you remember, there was a time when God left the temple. What is right? Ichabod. Spirit has departed. So I don't think that the Ark would really have any powers they had in the movie. I think God has moved on from there. The veil was torn when Jesus was died on the cross, and that was all opened up, and so I don't think it's got that kind of power. Not that I wouldn't be curious to see it if it existed. I see that President Trump's got one in Mar-a-Lago. He's had a reproduction made. But that's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this remote viewing, or what is there about people who can see things like that, even though they're not told much about what's there. How does that happen? And do people have, auras, or what do they call them, chakras, or is there something about people? I suspect there's a lot more to us as humans than we know. I think we're sort of forced into a way of thinking that is not very expansive. I do believe that people have a spirit, and I don't necessarily believe that it stops at your skin. I mean, that seemed like it'd be convenient if it did, but I don't know that that's true. You've probably sensed something one time, and then it happened, and you may have found that odd. Or maybe you had a deja vu kind of experience. What's that about? Because time is not linear. It's an artifact.
We
got a call?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Good morning. Welcome to Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a question for Dr. Ayers today?
Hey, Ron, Dr. Ayers. I could talk about a lot of that stuff that you're talking about, but a question about the apricots. Did he say seed? Because I didn't hear real well.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, where would you find those? A health food store?
You could, or you should buy them. I think I buy mine from Amazon. I mean, I have a wife, my research assistant, posted on my Facebook page about where we get them. But yeah, you should buy them by a bag. They last a long time.
Well, that's one of my favorite fruit. I didn't know if just eating the fruit would.
Well, fruit's good. It's good for you, but yeah, we're talking about
the seed.
We're talking about the pit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And the auras. I was born with something or another. People say there's nothing to that stuff, but yes, I have seen auras.
Sure.
And I have seen spirits after someone dies too, that'll just come into the room and it's like a clear. It's like a spirit. I mean, it's just like a clear smoke. Like I have seen that before. It's really strange. I mean, it's something we could talk about for a long time. But my son is a physics engineer, and of course he had all that bunch of mess at UT. That thing that keeps your heart beating, that spark that keeps your heart beating, does not die. He said it goes out into the universe. That's what keeps us alive. That keeps the heart beating. Does not ever die. It goes out into the universe when you die. So maybe that's the spirit. I don't know. Well, let you go. Okay.
Right.
Bye-bye. Something to think about.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, it's this whole thinking about, the guy in Spain, he sort of picked a bunch of hearts apart, and really it's just one muscle all wrapped up in a spiral. And it creates a electrical force when it contracts. It does go outside the body. I mean, we can pick it up on the skin when we do an EKG, but it seems to go past that. And like I say, what does the Bible say? You're fearfully and wonderfully made. To think that we have any kind of understanding how this body works, we are just picking around the edges in the medical world. I'm not sure we'll ever get the grasp of how it all works. So life is just an incredible thing, regardless whether it's a hoppy toad or a human being. We know so little. But I do know this. The healthier you keep yourself, the better it works. Okay? You wouldn't go buy a Rolls Royce, and not change the oil or take it to the shop occasionally to get it looked at. That's too expensive a machine to just abuse. And yet we tend to abuse our bodies, which are much more marvelous than a Rolls Royce. You need to exercise. You need to work your mind. You need to read a book. You need to get it off the television and off your phone. And you need to eat right. And you all know what eating right is. I don't have to explain it here. It doesn't involve a can of Pringles. Not that you can't have Pringles. I like them occasionally. But you can't just have that and think that that's going to be okay. That there's not going to be a price to pay for that behavior. That's the way we've been living. Like we're just blind to truths that are obvious. We can't have this fluoride in your water. We can't have them spraying stuff in the sky. We can't have glyphosate, which is Roundup, in all of our drinking water, and it's in there. You're drinking it every day because it's run off from all these crops, and that's in our water supply. And think there's not a price to pay. We can't have plastics. I don't even know what microplastics do to people, but the number of biopsies that people are getting from their lungs and elsewhere, and it has plastic in them, I just can't think that's good, So you can't escape the world we live in. Like, I don't know what PVC pipes do if they bring water into your house. But remember, it's better than the lead pipes you used to use.
Somebody wants to know, are there any types of cream or salve or anything for thick skin on the arms to prevent bruising and easy to cut? I think I meant thin skin. I'm sorry, thin skin on the arms to prevent bruising, easy to cut.
Oh, that's really hard. That's really hard because that's sort of a natural aging thing. As we get older, our skin gets thinner, particularly if you've had a lot of sun damage to your skin. And I'm for people to get out in the sun, honestly. Like I say, I think you need to get out 20 minutes a day and expose as much skin as you can expose without getting arrested. We're not getting enough vitamin D, and vitamin D is so critical. Vitamin D is a hormone, actually, and it's so critical to your immunological health. But there's a price to pay. You will probably get more basal cells and squamous cells, but they're curable. I don't think melanoma is really tied to sun tanning, sun burning maybe, but not sun tanning. But as we get older, then we lose the fat underneath our skin. So it's that fat underneath the skin that stabilizes the veins, those blue things we were talking about earlier. And so any bump causes it to leak. And you get these big purple spots on your arm, and they don't stay there forever. So that's a whole skin problem. And if you live long enough, you're probably going to get that to some degree. It's hard to thicken your skin up. But I don't know of no cream that would help. In fact, most creams probably make it worse. Any kind of hydrocortisone thing is going to thin the skin out even worse. You just have to guard your skin. That's the best thing you can do. Probably wear long sleeves so you don't catch it. Because when it tears, you can't even sew it. I mean, I have people, like when I was practicing, they come in the office, these monstrous tears, because it gets like tissue paper, and you can't really sew it back. I mean, there's nothing really to put a needle through. I have to just tack it down around the edges with little tiny stitches until it heals again. But I'll see if I can look some up on that if there's any way to help it. It's probably, I think what I'm going to find is there may be ways to prevent it, but not ways to make it go away. I feel it's going to fall into that category.
What are ways to prevent it?
I'm thinking probably if you maybe limit the sun exposure on your arms, and don't get too skinny. You know, we talk about being people in heavy. You can go too skinny the other direction, and you start losing fat underneath your skin, and then your skin's going to be thin and tear easy. You know, there's something to be said for having a little extra weight as you get older, because if you get sick, you know, and can't eat for a while, you have some fat reserves to go to. If you're extraordinarily thin and you get sick, you really don't have enough reserves tucked away to help you. So it's a fine line. You got to walk there. Thin, but not skinny, and try to keep some fat stores in your body. And some people get it and some people don't. I mean, it seems to me if you live long enough, if once you get into your 80s, I start to see these people come with large bruises on the back of their hands. And the reason on your hands and your arms is because you bump things. You bump things your whole life. But you used to bump things and you didn't get big leaks in your vasculature because your skin's got those so thin. But in my experience, if you live long enough, you're going to get that to some degree.
Okay.
Sorry. Since but protect it, because I tell you, because if it tears, it's a nightmare. Because I have a list of things we don't know. Like, we don't know what Dacron, rayon, nylon, we don't know any long-term effects of that stuff. And we wear it on our skin all day long. So there's a whole movement out there that maybe we ought to just stick to cotton and linen and wool. as far as clothes, and maybe not have so much of this other stuff in it. And then the microplastics, and even polyurethane. You do cover your furniture in polyurethane. And PVC stands for polyvinyl chloride. These are all, chemicals that are.
I think we got a question here.
Okay.
Good morning, WYSH. You have a question for Dr. Ayers today?
Yes, I do. Good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
I have a question. I was told taking prednisone for a reason, prednisone, can cause a person to bruise. I mean, you could just bump it and it would bruise really bad. And my second question is, for a person in their late 60s, early 70s, how much of vitamin D should that person be on? Let me ask this question. Would 5,000 be too much for that person? Just not from a doctor telling you to take so much. I just need to ask the question, how much would be safe? And thank you so much. And I've been listening to you for years and years. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
So prednisone came out, I think, around the 1950s, and we thought it was like a cure for rheumatoid arthritis because, man, it stopped it cold in its tracks, and a lot of these autoimmune inflammatory conditions, it was just great. And then, but the longer people stayed on it, bad things started to happen. The face started to get this big round thing. People got a buffalo hump on the back of their neck. They put on weight. They had this vascular fragility that she's talking about, where you bump things, sort of like we were talking about earlier with the thin skin.
Yeah.
So it's good for a short-term thing. There are a few conditions where people have to stay on for a while. But it's got problems long-term. And definitely, the cream version would be like hydrocortisone. You definitely rub that on your skin. Your skin will get thin. It'll get sort of curiously thin. So vitamin D, first off, you can get a level checked by your doctor. And the normal level is like 30 to 100 on the scale that they use. And you want it sort of at the middle upper part of that. In COVID, we found out that no one who had a vitamin D greater than 50 ended up in the hospital and dying. Okay? That's how effective your vitamin D is at your immune system.
Wow.
If it was above 50, they didn't have anybody dying in the hospital.
And that's what, 20 minutes a day to get it up?
Well, that's the question. It depends on, like, that's what I was complaining about. There's no sun here the next week. Every day it's got rain on it. We got clouds. We just have clouds and clouds and clouds. This has not really been a sunshiny summer. So you can get it up with just getting out in the sun, like about 20 minutes a day. And that may be enough, okay? If it's not enough, then you can take a supplement. And most people probably need to take a supplement. Typically, I will tell people, if they're of normal size and weight, to take 2,000 international units a day in the summer and 5,000 units a day through the winter months. So that's just sort of the rule I go by. And then you can get your doctor to check it. And if it's too high, then you can back off a bit. It's not going to be the end of the world if it's 110 or something. You're not going to drop dead. So, like, when I first got mine checked, it was 17. Okay, because I'd gone through medical school, and guess what they told me? Stay out of the sun. Don't get in the sun. You'll get skin cancer. So I wore long sleeves and stayed out of the sun, and I got my level checked, and it was 17. So last time I got checked was 84. That's when I was out in the sun, but I haven't been out in the sun this summer because there's really
not much of it.
There's no place to get in the sun, even if there was sun where I live right now. So it's 2,000 a day in the summer months if you're getting out and getting some sun, and then 5,000 a day I think in the winter. Because if you're low, let's say you're low like 17, and I wanted to get it up, your doctor's going to shoot you twice a week with 50,000 units. Okay. So there's a lot of room to maneuver in that between 50,000 units and the 5,000 a day that you're taking. So you really don't have to worry about getting toxic. I hardly ever see a toxic level of vitamin D unless you're just taking a whole bunch of it. The other thing we don't know about in society right now, and I'll wind up here, is this 5G. We're on the 6G coming up soon and being 7G after that. We have no idea what that does to people. We don't have a clue. We know the 5G penetrates millimeters into your skin, and somehow the FCC thinks that's safe. 6G is going to go deeper, and 7G will be even worse than that. I don't see good things happening there. At some point, I think, the administrations, as they come and go, they want America to lead the way in all this technology, not realizing that there's a price to pay for all this technology. And at some point, we're going to find out, I guess, what that price is. But just be prepared. We're well on the way to 7G. And then, there's a thing called DARPA. I don't know if you know about DARPA. These are really our conspiracy theories, okay? DARPA exists. It stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency or something. And that's the military. And they're always doing experiments about pushing the realms of physicality and what a body can take and what can we do with this technology. And they typically estimate that they're 30 years ahead of where we are. So you have a nice phone. It's basically a computer, and it can interact with the internet through wireless means. Just think that in the 1990s, the Department of Defense had this. Okay, you just got it the other day at the Apple Store. They've had it since the 1990s. They only release what they want you to have because they don't want you to have what they have because they feel like they need it for defense. But that's the trouble with technology. It's far advanced beyond what you and I know. We only get glimpses of what's been released. And but to control all this stuff, I see these guys rob banks and then people are looking for them. I had a feeling if I robbed a bank, they'd have found me in about 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I got a phone. If I have to use my credit card, they know exactly where you're at. They can see you with infrared from space. So I don't know how people avoid the law. We live in a surveillance state, and I think somehow we have to address that as a society. Can you actually go anywhere? Can you do anything in private anymore and not the whole world know about it?
I was looking for this because when you said DARPA, I knew I just read this recently. They just, and this was in the mainstream news, they just demonstrated wireless power, electricity. They shot it for 5.3 miles. They were able to shoot a beam of light and it conduct over 800 watts of electricity and operate. I can't remember what they operated on it. But they just did that. They just completed that test, if you will, and they were successful.
Which means they've probably been able to do it for quite a while.
Probably.
If they'll show you.
They probably can do it a lot. They shot 800 watts over 5.3 miles using a laser relay, enough to pop popcorn remotely. And they said it had 20% efficiency. But it's wireless electricity in light.
Yeah. What we know and what we don't know.
But, of course, Tesla was doing that.
Tesla was doing that
years
Colorado
ago.
Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
he was able to light light bulbs by pushing them into the yard. And I don't remember how far away that he did it, though. It wasn't miles, but it was, hundreds of yards, I remember.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was advanced. He had the ability to see things. He wasn't really like a mathematician kind of guy. He could just see it and understand it in his head. But he got cut off there.
Yeah.
And said he couldn't put a meter on it. Because that's what he was trying to do at Wardenclyffe. He was trying to make wireless power.
Yes.
And then J.P. Morgan, I think, was helping finance it.
Yep.
And he said, if we can't put a meter on it, ain't going to happen. We got to charge. No free electricity. All right, that's enough for me. I've waxed out in the edges of medicine here.
All right. We'll do it again next month. And remember, guys, if you have questions between now and then, you can email me or you can find Doc on Facebook and message him. Or you can wait till he comes back next month and call in and ask your questions. We'll be happy to try and answer them for you. Until then, have a great week. Have a great day. We'll be back here tomorrow with more Ask Your Neighbor. Tomorrow, what, Wednesday? Yep, Wednesday. I don't know if I have guests or not. We'll find out tomorrow together. All right, good morning.
Thank you for listening to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. each day, Monday through Friday, right here on AM 1380 WYSH and BBB TV 12. Or listen live online at WYSHradio.com. And remember, if you have a question, comment, or